Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SARG Superspeedway series. It took us 8 races to figure out our final 12. They're going to be racing here for the NS Service playoffs. It's going to be 4 races, figuring out who can get the most points to get the championship here today. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Tyler Riggs. And Tyler, it's playoff time. The intensity level now at an all-time high. It's all about being up front and maximizing your points.
Oh yeah, and I think you're already seeing that early here. Is poll wise, it's Lucas Graham, Connor Horn, and Brandon Hoff, your top 3 here from qualified. So to your point, those guys understand, hey, you got to be up front and in charge in the playoffs. But Sam, I've been waiting all week for this because not only have we had just a fantastic racing down the stretch of the regular season, the intensity is going to be even higher tonight, and especially for those guys that maybe did make the playoffs. They're racing for pride at this point. You got guys like Derek Newsom, Ben McDonald in the top 5 here tonight that are going to be starting out there that I hope they're just as aggressive as the playoff drivers. I mean, you want to go out there and get a win.
Yeah, like you said, Cram, Horn, your top 2 leading the first row. Then going in second row, you got Hoff, Derek Newsom, McDonald, Tate's back here this week. A lot of drivers that we haven't really seen in a while, as Brady Floyd, Bell. As you're seeing, there's going to be a P for these drivers on our ticker. Those are going to be the playoff drivers to be watching out for. 12 of them going to be on our board. And, Tyler, just looking at these drivers, we missed a couple of drivers that were already locked in last week because they didn't show up. They knew they were already locked in, taking a week off to prepare for the playoffs. It's Talladega, and we've kind of seen some of our favorites so far this season. We've raced at Talladega a total of 3 times this season. We have no repeaters, but you got Alex Bell that won back in week 2 of this season. Then you've got Connor Horn that won back in week 4, and then you got Lucas Cram that won 2 weeks ago here. And each time it's been kind of different on how these drivers have won. I mean, Alex Bell won with a yellow flag on our 3rd attempt at a green-white checkered. Connor Horn just got pushed his way to the lead, and no one went for a huge run on him. And then Lucas Cram at Talladega, he had to make some bold moves to find himself up front. So it's really looking like today's race, it's kind of a wild card to see who's going to be making any moves at the end, but it's all about surviving.
Yeah, and I think each guy playoff-wise, just within that, are going to have different approaches. We talked to Clint Spillman last week after he got a top 3 to end the season there, and he even said like it's going to depend here on how the first the points are for him and what he's got to do to be able to get up there. But on top of that, just the tone of the race early on for some of these guys is going to determine if hey, do I hang back here for a little bit or do I get up front and stay in charge? And I think you're going to have kind of a split between that. So it'll be interesting to see how it play out, not to mention, as we just talked about, with all the guys that are not in the playoffs still gunning to get a win. I mean, there's a lot of them. Kyle Manger, who got knocked out last week because Blake Trawick just did enough to get to the playoffs. A guy like that, he's going to be hungry to prove, hey, I should have been in the playoffs. I belong there. Guys like Britt Murphy, there's multiple out there that have been running good all season and just want to go out there and, prove that, either for next season or this season that, hey, I belong up here.
Yeah, and, looking at the drivers that just were taken out, like you said, Manger didn't make it. And I'm just interested to see who's going to be some of these drivers. We've seen Jared Darling, Robbie Lyons, as well as, Sawyer really showing off that they've got Strayer, drivers that have really shown that they've got a chance to run well up front, but they haven't had that possibility of getting a win just yet, but they've always been there at the end. They've just been caught up at that last lap accident that always comes at the end of these races.
Yeah, and those are guys that, to start the round, they need to prove right here that, they're a contender for this, because if we look at the points within this top 12, Sam, it's very interesting. We mentioned how Hoff, Cram, and Horn are all in the top 3 right here. Well, coming into this, Hoff is your leader points-wise. Cram's only 1 point behind. Then Connor Horn is only 2 points behind Hoff. So they are extremely tight. And you can see in the qualifying that they all want to be up front, stacking up those points. And then you go a little bit further back to Alex Bell in 4th. Then all of a sudden that drops to like 11 back. And, of course, back in 11th and 12th, Trawick and Darling are 22 back. So that's where we talk about the variant strategies. All these guys right here, it's going to put on a show. And you see the blue banners as well on some of these trucks, signifying that they are part of the NS Service playoffs. So that's another indicator, as you mentioned as well, with the P in the ticker tonight.
Yeah, NF Services, sponsor of the playoffs. They're a great company, a safety inspection company that is really all over the country, mainly in the New England, all the way down to Arizona. We'll be talking a bit more about them throughout this race as the cars are getting set up to go green in the tri-oval.
Nice and even rows so far here, Sam, and the patience on these starts, at Talladega is something to pay attention to here.
As the drivers are coming to the exit of the tri-oval. Green flag up in the air. It's going to be Cram and Horn leading the way, and this has kind of been the way that it's been all season long with these drivers. But we're going to be seeing who of our playoff drivers are going to be dropping back quick, going straight to the end, just going for survival mode here for the start. 75 laps to figure out where these drivers are going to be placed as they're already starting to shuffle up and down. That's going to be Christopher Tate in that yellow machine that just went to the third lane right now and just is dropping back. Knows that he's got pace. You saw it during qualifying. Now we're seeing up front Newsom pushing Horn, and they are making a huge run to the lead.
Yeah, Connor Horn, glad to be back, I'm sure, this week. He was one of those guys you mentioned that kind of took last week off knowing he was locked in, ready to go, getting prepared for this week. He always makes things super exciting, but how about that bottom row now with the push? You got Horn, Cram, and Hoff all lined up. How long are they going to play nice here between the three of them?
It's hard to tell. I mean, right now you got that high line that's going to be pushed by Newsom, and then you've also got the 16 of McDonald. Ben McDonald just missed out on the playoffs. Another one of those drivers that had a lot of speed during the season, but just was caught up on wrecks. And really, Superspeedway Racing, there's a lot of skill that's involved, but also a lot of luck that's going to be thrown in as well.
Yeah, but, as we talk about with Superspeedway Racing, the luck will only get you so far. You got to have the talent, especially in a field like this, to know how to be able to play the field and get up there, and search yourself not only in the lead, but for the win. And talked about playing nice and, jumped up to the top lane right there. We see this move. Lucas Cram to the top lane, trying to get that big push from Derek Newsom to retake the lead here, or take the lead, I should say.
Lucas Cram, yes, saw Newsom push Horn to the lead, and Newsom looking like the favorite on that high side. You just want to be in front of him because he'll shove you to the point as the 44 machine gets a great shove, but he's just not clear enough to come down just yet.
It looks like a little further back on that top line, Alex Bell and Nick Olson may be filling out the third line. We've talked about plenty of times here in Talladega, Sam, of just how that third line can really open up and when you got the right guys. I expect that to be more used tonight or today than what we saw maybe in the last couple of weeks of the season.
I'm also noticing something we haven't really seen that much this season. There's a couple of drivers that are blinking a little bit here, and it's kind of going to be frustrating at times for drivers that are around a car that's blinking because you don't know if you're about to run right into where they were blinked at. Believe that's going to be Treywick and Bell, both being those playoff drivers to watch out. And hopefully their internet connection starts to figure themselves out at this point, because if you have any other issues, you could be finding yourself being kicked out of this race.
Yeah, and you don't want that, especially if you're a playoff driver. 2-0, though, for Treywick. Already saw kind of pre-race. He was getting some love there on the stream in terms of, the cheering section going on. So he's got some momentum behind him. That's a guy that I would look to, really see if he tries to assert himself early, because he caught all the momentum at the end of the season, getting that big win and then just making it at the end of the playoffs. He's kind of stuck there on the inside. What, fourth, fifth, maybe on the inside there, fifth? So
yeah, fifth on back.
Yeah, but these guys, it's such a good mix-up here. Like we talked about, guys that barely miss and the playoff drivers. And remember, folks, as always, that stage break is going to come into play lap 35. And Sam, do you think we stay green long enough here to have green flag pit stops like we saw a few races this season?
Yeah, I would think so, as Bell going to be shoving its way to the third lane, and I don't think Cram liked that at all, as he wanted to follow suit. Now Newsom's going to be also there, 3 wide now for third place, and this is something that we're kind of used to here at Talladega. 3 wide action. Bell going to be on that outside line leading the group, and Bell has always been notoriously known as a driver that just gets to that third lane here at Talladega and wants to start moving forward, as right now getting a lot of help from from the 48 machine of Gingrich. And right now, Spillman's also in that third lane. Clint Spillman, I went back, rewatched a lot of these finishes for these drivers, and it's been crazy to look at where Spillman is at always. He's in the top 5 almost at every time we're at the end of coming to the white flag. but he's either going to be finishing in third or getting caught up in a wreck and finishing back in 15th. And it's just the little bit of unknowingness when we come to the end of these races.
Oh, no doubt, but they are getting nicer early.
Whoa!
Oh, Newsom off the track a bit. He saved it. What a save. Took a bit of a wrong shove right there. These guys are not lifted today, Sam.
No, it's playoff time. It is time to go forward. These drivers do have a fast repair to work with, though, if you get yourself with too much damage to worry about. But yeah, no, that was a huge shove, as there's still 3 wide, 2 wide up front, scattering all over the place, but still Lucas Cram up front. Brady Floyd going to be in second place, leading that outside groove, and then he's got McDonald leading his way, and then on the inside, you find yourself with the 48 machine of Gingrich, who just continues to just be following suit with his 44 machine.
There are no friends today, I think, Sam. I don't care if there's teammates out there what. It seems like early on, at least, the tone is a lot of shuffling, a lot of guys just either, following in suit, like you mentioned, until it benefits them to do otherwise, or, just making moves for themselves. This ought to be fantastic.
Yeah, watching here, you got Kobe Wells. Kobe Wells has had a couple of interesting races. I mean, one of the races, he actually started on pit road, got an early caution that helped this 45 car out. I believe that was in the first half of the season, as they're still shuffling all over the place.
Okay, that was Connor Horn back there. They got shot up a little bit. It looked like him and maybe Hoff got together on a bit of a bad push on the backstretch, but they're going to stick to that third line. We've seen Connor Horn and Bill do the 2-truck tango all the way to the front. We'll see if they decide to do it. They pull back down the line a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to be just staying and put on that third lane, trying to find space to drop behind Clark, but there's just no space at the moment, as like you said, we've seen 2 trucks be able to move their way forward on that third lane and even in that second group, but right now they kind of need the momentum to start moving forward, and I think they might have found it with a huge run through the corner and coming out of 2, getting a little bit more help as the car jumps up in front of them.
3 wide again right there, and it's Newsom getting back to the front. I believe it's Newsom after having that mistake. No,
that's Robbie Lyon.
Oh, Robbie Lyon, my bad. I apologize. Robbie Lyon, that's another guy that, we talk about making the playoffs, having some good looks in terms of, potentially being up front and being strong, but just hadn't had the luck. He's looking real aggressive early here, and this tone by Lyon. Oh, look at Alex Bell barely get down front. Clint Spillman.
It's just wild how these drivers are just pushing themselves. Connor Horn at one moment was only back in 15th place. Got a shove, and there they go. There they go up front. Connor Horn and others scattering, and they just spin around. Doesn't look like there's a lot of heavy contact for these drivers, but as I say that, Clark comes in hard into Gingrich and others.
There's going to be some fast repairs using that one, no doubt.
Yeah, Connor Horn's blowing up his engine.
Stephen Gale.
A little retaliation from the 67 to the 50.
Drama early here. Yeah, I don't think I like that little bit of that movement. Well, I think it was it McDonald that hooked. We're gonna have to go back and see what happened there with Horn. I know he got a little bit of a wrong shove. Couldn't tell if it was, as you mentioned, Newsom, or maybe it was McDonald.
Well, it was McDonald coming out of the tri-oval into corner number 1. Gets the quarter panel, goes around. Bell was involved in that. Hoff, a lot of our playoff drivers were involved. But I think Connor Horn might have just been retaliating to Newsom, who was just for earlier in the way that Newsom got out of the way, because he just came straight, saw the 50 and said, I'm going to hit you after this accident, which was shocking to see. I mean, he was already damaged. I think he might have been trying to just take out the 50 machine, make him use a fast repair. But I mean, a lot of drama early in this race, bringing out our first caution of the day. And this is an interesting point when this caution came out, because I think these drivers are going to be just about 3 to 4 laps shy from making it to the stage end here.
Yeah, one thing we always talk about with these races, we talked about throughout the season, there is that strategy aspect. Truly, they've done a good job with, knowing how to kind of make the fuel a certain way to where these guys have to make some tough decisions at certain points. This being one of those, where all of a sudden you're mentioning if you pit here, you still might be a bit short, but hey, if you pit here, you might be able to stretch it if you kind of hang in the back. And now knowing that a lot of guys are going to be using fast repairs, it may be one of those situations where you could take advantage of kind of more of a chill second half of this first stage.
Yeah, I mean, just looking around at all the cars and the carnage, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone in the field got some type of piece of this. Christopher Tate, who dropped back, he blew an engine during this. As drivers are coming into the pits now, a few drivers went straight to the pits, but our leaders just pulling in at this moment.
Yeah, it looks like pretty much, as you mentioned, all the leaders here coming into pit. Might be one of those situations where you could stretch on fuel. If not, I mean, no reason not to pit and try, right? I mean, it's Talladega, Superspeedway race, and track position isn't as important in a situation like this where you have to be, maintaining your spot off pit road. But yeah, I think you're right as far as the damage aspect. I'm seeing maybe, and this is before fast repairs used, maybe Robbie Lyons might be about the only truck that truly survived that without any incident.
I mean, Bell was involved. Brady Floyd, that 20 machine looks clean, but might have used a fast repair.
I know Connor Horn already used his when he got down pit lane for sure.
There's a lot of cars up here that I saw spinning that look very clean, and this is making me very nervous moving forward because, I mean, some of these drivers, they have to figure out how to save their fast repair for that stage and try to secure a way for their car to still be there at the end. But man.
Well, and that storm was brewing, though. I mean, we saw the 3 wide there for, 5 laps? It seemed like at least of just constant shuffling. And you could tell early on there is not going to be a lot of give. I mean, if you watch the first race back of this season to now, there is a huge difference in the tone of how some of these guys are handling not only moves, but when a guy blocks them, when they check up. And not to say that McDonald, of course, meant to get into Connor Horn to do what he did, but it's just – these guys understand the intensity of the situation. I mean, this first race is huge. You can't win the championship, obviously, on this first race, Sam, but boy, you could sure knock yourself out of it, especially if you're one of those guys that's, about, probably 6 on back, starting with Gavin Jones and the points where you're, already in a 15, 20-point hole. You got to have a really good first race here.
I mean, I would even say if you're Alex Bell, who's 4th in points on back, if you've got multiple digits of points back and you have an off day here today, like we're seeing Bell have, he's still in pit road. He just got out pit road now, so luckily did not go a lap down. Right now, Jordan Clark is going to be a lap down. A few cars coming to the pits. I think this is a good strategy on their point. Yep. I mean, it's got to be so close. If you can utilize the draft, try to save fuel and be that second group that backs off, you might find yourself with a lot of stage points here at the halfway point of end of lap 35, which these drivers are going for stage 1.
No, I think this is definitely a call to be able to come down again, as you're mentioning, and just top off. No reason not to. I see Blake Trawick in the 56 doing it. He's a guy that's got to play aggressive. We just mentioned that, so why not do that? A couple of these other playoff drivers, I see maybe Darling doing it as well, up in the 1. Kobe Wells doing it. Connor Horn, Gavin Jones.
Connor Horn completely blew his pit box and is going to be dropping back. And that's not even a bad call. Like, I know for some drivers, they'll actually come in, they'll wait until everyone is out and then finally start going. But officially at this moment, Jordan Clark, the only car 1 lap down. So as long as no one else goes a lap down, this 71 machine could be finding himself back on the lead lap. A total of 30 cars left on the lead lap. We started with 31. Everyone is still running as we are getting ready to go green here. Pace truck lights are off. Whew, Tyler, I mean, we were 10 laps in when that caution came out. We're now going to be starting lap 13 here of 75. We're going to the end of lap 35. How aggressive can some of these drivers really be? I know the cars that are in the back half that pitted, they're on save mode. Is everyone else really going to be in save mode?
That's a great question, and honestly, based off how this stage was going, I don't know if people are going to, hold back even now that there's that big wreck. I mean, we saw it the last couple of weeks of the regular season, despite some of the early cautions in the stages, guys were still getting up there and mixing it up. So it's definitely been a, interesting start to the TI race in 199.
Do want to give a quick shout out to one of my favorite schemes. That's going to be Lucas Schreier. Saying hey to the Pikachu there as cars are getting ready to go green here as they're coming out of 4. Still to go through the tri-oval. But Tyler, it's been a wild season. I mean, the regular season, there were a lot of crazy finishes, a lot of wrecks. Here for playoff time, I'm just excited to see how the rest of this is going to go. First 10 laps were wild. They went 3 wide going into lap 3, and they continued on until the caution came out. How aggressive are they going to be here coming into the tri-oval and about to go green here once again?
Noticing that 44 truck does still have a bit of a bit fender, Sam, here as we take the green again. Maybe he didn't quite take his fast repair or get the full repairs. That might play into how well he could lead a pack.
And that's going to be kind of a parachute for this 44 machine, as he'll be trying to lead the way. With having rear quarter panel issues and a little bit of spoiler issues, would that be better for him to be leading or pushing somebody?
It's tough with that spoiler because, depending on where it's pushed in at and how kind of the physics react to it, it can be tough to be a leader most of the time in that sense. Typically, he's going to be a better pusher just because of the aerodynamic issues there. And I think you're kind of seeing that already with that 3-truck group of Spillman, Olson, and Lyon just immediately getting up there from that outside line.
Yeah, and then you're going to see the 84 machine of Jacob Locklear going to be trying to follow suit behind them. And then you got to go back to 5th place when you finally see cars side by side. This is odd to see, as now we're going to be seeing Locklear going to be trying to make a pass here, as he'll be on the outside. Excuse me, that's actually going to be Lucas Cram, who's going to be leading the charge, being a good push from Christopher Tate, who had to use a fast repair. And now we're starting to see the drivers that feel a lot more comfortable up front. And we're also starting to see already a gap from our lead pack to our second group.
Yeah, and that second group is made up of a lot of those guys that came back into pit road to top off, plus some of the trucks that are still injured, if you will, that didn't take their fast repairs. And it's going to come down to the wire. Basically, if we stay green on the strategy, as we talked about, who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. But these guys up front, they're not worried about that. They're going at it. They're 2x2. They want to lead laps, especially these playoff rounds.
It's going to be Robbie Lyons on the inside, Lucas Cram on the outside, trying to lead their ways in those purple machines, as here comes Nick Olson. Oh, excuse me, that was actually Christopher Tate, who's going to be ducking it to the outside and now going to be dropping back, and kind of similar to what we saw on the first couple of laps for that 4 machine. No one trying to help and no one trying to go to the outside, because all those drivers that would go to that 3rd lane, they're all the way back in this second pack.
Well, and here's an interesting dynamic with the playoffs now, Sam, is the fact that these guys that are not in the playoffs don't really have to worry about stage points. They can just play for the win. I think that's what you're seeing Christopher Tate do, as you mentioned a couple times now. He started up front on a restart, felt it out for a couple laps, and he drops back. I mean, I don't blame him right there. You're not doing anything else other than just going for the win today, so why not play it safe?
Yeah, it's a brilliant call on their part to be doing that. Also, Christopher Lewis, as well as some of these other purple machines of Parker, as well as Wells, all trying to make their way forward at the moment and kind of stuck where they're at, as now we're starting to see that 3rd groove kind of starting to get a little bit of momentum, led by Brady Floyd in that 20 machine. But up front, still Nick Olson and also Lucas Cram on the outside.
Yeah, and a little bit more calm on the 3 wide action, although that second group starting to catch up. You see Treywick back there in the 56. He's kind of leading that second group. They've caught up with this first group, so will it start to get a bit more dicey now, I wonder. They've kept it 2x2, kept it clean since the restart.
Yeah, up front for sure, 2x2, and looking back at Treywick's truck, there's a lot of rear end damage still to that 56 machine, as he's still trying to just linger and stick with the cars that they're with. 60 laps to go, 59 laps to go after crossing the line there, and we're about halfway to the stage, end of stage 1. Just looking at some of these drivers, I mean, I'm not surprised in the fact that the drivers that had to use fast repairs, staying in the back, trying to just keep their cars clean. Cars up front, I mean, this is a huge advantage for Nick Olson, Lucas Cram, Robbie Lyons really needing to get points to put themselves in better positions to get the points. Stage points, so massive for playoff-wise, just because it's based off total points. So these drivers all aiming for those playoff points. And right now, Nick Olson feeling comfortable. Robbie Lyons following suit, and Spillman. And this was those 3 cars that just pulled away initially, and no one's really been able to do anything. Is coming to the outside. Robbie Lyons going to be trying to make a pass here, and does cleanly, with Spillman trying to follow suit, but just needing a little bit more help. And here comes that help on the outside by the 44.
Yeah, I think those 3 guys that stayed out front that long, because Cram had gotten to the point where he was leading the outside line, and you notice the couple of those purple trucks that you're talking about, Locklear and Parker and some of those guys that were hooked up on the outside behind decided to drop back and kind of leave Cram up there, realizing at this time he's not the best lead truck. So Spillman, as you mentioned, taking advantage of that now, trying to use that move where maybe he gets the big push from Lucas to get himself to lead.
No, just seeing where they're at as they continue on, and you're seeing the car that's going to be on the outside. That's going to be Brett Murphy rocking some NS Services on the hood. A huge thanks to NS Service for them sponsoring the playoffs here for the SARG Superspeedway Series. It kind of was a surprise to come out of in the middle of the season, seeing that it was going to be the playoffs was going to be sponsored. And thank you for NS Services and everything they do in real life and helping us virtual side.
Yeah, it's always great to see that partnership. Also, TI Racing being the race sponsor here today. They've sponsored quite a few races as well. And folks, remember, in this league, with every sponsored race, these guys are also competing for a $10 first place prize with each of those races. So it adds a little bit extra to the fire every time we get these sponsored races.
Trying to get a little bit of change while also trying to get as many points as possible for these drivers. And I mean, when money's involved, you're willing to do a lot of things here on the virtual side, because you're not wrecking this car. When you're wrecking these trucks, you're not losing thousands of dollars of money. You're just going to have to reset it. So, willing to do anything for a couple bucks.
Yeah, I'm about to say, if you ask probably all these drivers, they'd say they'd do anything for $5. I mean, especially on the virtual side. I mean, you don't have to worry about, as you mentioned, the cost of wrecking the truck or anything like that. But that's what makes it so fun. A lot of these guys just race for pride, but this is such a talented field. And it just every week, these guys bring it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, win enough of these things that are sponsored races, then there's your iRacing subscription for the month, or you could buy a new track that comes in. I mean, it sets you up for a while here. As once we can, it's going to be Olsen and Lyons leading the way. Spillman looking a little antsy to make a move here in that 88 machine, just not yet. And it's going to be Christopher Tate on that third lane, but he's so far back. We're waiting to see when that momentum will start to kick in and who else is going to be joining that outside groove.
Steve Rada up there with Christopher Tate. It looks like one of the purple machines, if you will, pulling up there. Have to identify who that is. But, yeah, Olsen jumped up in front of Spillman right there. Look at Spillman on that outside, just pushing like crazy. That's what you got to do with your playoff competitors. Oh, got Stephen Gale down there that they're having to get around as a lap truck, it looks like.
I think Gale just got pushed out of sequence, and that's what really shoved the 52 out of the way. Kind of very similar to what we saw what happened to Derek Newsom earlier on, but Gale going to be finding space, and other cars are slow enough for him to keep with the draft.
Gale, not a lap truck. My apologies on that. Thought he was. And then up front, look at this 3 wide again. Robert Lino holding it strong up on.
Howell going to be really coming with a head of steam in that 38 machine, who last week had to really get his lap back the hard way and had a great showing last week. We'll see if this 38 machine can continue on with that momentum, as they're now single filed again, 3 wide action back for around 6th place, and they just continue on with different moments of shining and showing themselves, as Hoff going to be stuck on the inside, finding himself with Stanley in front of him, and also Christopher Tate now going to be on the inside. All these drivers trying to shuffle around, but to keep our eye out, who has to come into the pits? Lucas Cram has been leading this outside groove for quite a long time, as well as Robbie Lyons. So I'm interested to see, with them leading, not saving, will they have to come in here with about 2 to 3 laps to go?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question. And we'll find out soon enough, because we'll get to about probably lap 31 maybe, and then you'll know. But in the meantime, it looks like these guys are, saying, all right, we had our pull period, if you will, of not being crazy, getting close to that stage, and the 3 wide action is starting to return here slowly but surely.
Yeah, we already saw there of Gale going to be pushed out of the way. Who else will be shoved out of the way? As you said it on top of the broadcast, these drivers are willing and really aren't slowing down for anybody. It's a lot of take, not a lot of give that's going on for these drivers. Up front, Robbie Lyons still holding strong in the lead. Howell going to be in 2nd place on the 2nd car on the inside. Lucas Cram looking for some help, but that's 3rd groove starting to carry some momentum, and they're starting to move forward.
I'm really surprised they're sticking with Lucas on that middle line now, if you will, because he is not a lead truck with that damage. And there you go with Howell jumping to that second line and trying to take the lead for himself here over the line. Is he going to clear into the corner? He's got plenty of space.
Howell's going to be doing a great job so far with that 38 machine, trying to just lead any group that he can. As right now, I'm interested. I mean,
here comes that third line, Sam.
That third line has just been cruise control, and it's going to be Nick Olson and others really carrying that speed and doing a fabulous job. It's going to be Gavin Jones now going to be leading that third groove as Olson went from the third lane all the way down to the bottom. And
making himself wide. Hal pushing him into the corner a little bit, getting a bit squirrely. And we're not even we still got 10 laps to the end of the stage, potential pit stops here.
Yeah, and literally it's that 20 machine that I've got my eye on. And Brady Floyd, who was leading the third lane all the way when we started green flag on that last restart. He was the one who stayed up on the high side, continues to stay on the high side as they're trying to push Gavin Jones up to the lead, but they're needing a little bit more help and a little bit more momentum.
A lot of shuffling going on back there behind these first about 5 trucks. See Gavin Jones back there trying to pick a lane, but he couldn't quite make the decision quick enough. That caused a little bit of chaos, a bit of a checkup, and now they're going to have to, restack here, and they're approaching probably within the next lap or two. Jacob McMillan, that 21, he is all by himself right here in P30. He might be able to drop down by the time they catch him, but this could get crazy.
Yeah, Jacob McMillan going to be dropping to the apron and just trying to let this lead pack go, and they're pretty strung out, so this 21 machine going to be stuck where he's at for a while. I will say this, Tyler, I was reading up on the Discord for some of these drivers getting ready for this race. There were some drivers hinting and lingering at, hey, we still got 4 races in this season. You never know of an issue that popped up earlier in the season. Who might want to get some payback and retaliate here during playoffs?
Well, that's why you do your best, especially in a series like this where you have to rely on other people for your success to a degree. You do not want to make enemies. And some of these guys that you mentioned, maybe a couple of enemies that they didn't know about.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. So that's definitely something to always watch. But that comes down to the end of races, too. Maybe you don't push a guy to win because he did something to you earlier in the season. You cost him a win or vice versa. It's that will be definitely interesting to watch at the end of these races.
As these drivers are on the backstretch, 9 laps to go in stage 1. At the end of lap 35, that's when the caution will be thrown for these drivers. And then we'll be figuring out who's going to be in the top 10, getting stage points. And that's going to help a ton for these playoff drivers. Right now, Nick Olson, Lucas Cram, Lucas Strayer, Robbie Lyons, Gavin Jones, Brandon Hoff, and then Clint Spillman. Those are the playoff drivers that are inside the top 10. Drivers that are outside of the top 10, Jared Darling, Connor Horn, Kobe Wells, Blake Treywick, Alex Bell. A lot of drivers that are needing some points here that are further back on our top 12 coming into this playoffs. They're outside at stage points, and these are massive points that you're going to need.
Yeah, and I'm really shocked that we're seeing Alex Bell this far back because typically, similar to Connor Horn, he is a very aggressive driver when it comes to getting these stage points, but both him and Horn, I think, both had to use a fast repair from that first wreck, so that's kind of played into that. And you talked about earlier and right now how guys like Cram and Olson are benefiting from that because they can play more aggressive, knowing that they've still got that in their back pocket. So
yeah, and also I believe Alex Bell might have had a little bit of damage that needed to get repaired. His car's still shuffling in front of them. As there was a little bit of slight contact, but this second groove is kind of finally caught up as there was a lot of shuffling in this lead pack.
Yeah, Sean Howell maybe got a little bit of the boot there. They said, hey, we got to get these points, so he got shuffled back. And really the outside line hasn't stuck together very well for the most part in these last few laps because of all this chaos, and we're starting to see some single file action. And I wonder if some of these guys are looking to pit. Here in the 81, Jeremy Jones is going to be pitting, so there's our answer. Some of these guys are going to have to be pitting.
Yeah, and we were getting closer and closer. There were drivers that have been out there for almost 20 laps, and that's the window that the drivers aim for. So we are getting ready for pit road to get a little chaotic as they are starting to shuffle down into pit road. Now it looks like, as that's going to be Derek Newsom as well as Treywick and others on this back half coming into the pits.
Now, remember, folks, Treywick was one of those that topped off, and he hadn't been up front being aggressive, so that tells me pretty much everybody should have to pit right before the end of the stage. This is going to be crazy because you're not going to have a lot of time to group back up or recover if you have a mistake on pit road before the end of the stage.
Yeah, you got to make sure you do not speed. Get on pit road as clean as possible and don't lose too much time. I'm surprised Derek Newsom was in a very odd angle coming into the pits and able to get out of his stall cleanly. But with the drivers, I mean, with the way last week was going with these drivers that had long green flag pit stops, it was the drivers that stayed out the longest that actually had the advantage coming in. They're all scattering.
Robbie Lyon, Nick Olson, Lucas Cram, Murphy. Ooh, Murphy and Wells almost hit each other there. 45 had to check up pretty hard.
See, there's so many cars that were coming in this time by, and you got to make sure you're coming into the right stall and make sure you don't miss it. And Jacob Locklear might have been a driver that missed his pit box with the way that he looked like he was coming into his box, unless his box is later on. But this 84 machine, that is not good. He did miss his box and will have to go through again.
Oh, that's a killer. That's a killer. And now look at the second group that's still on track. There's some crazy shuffling going on there. A little bit of discussion over the driver chat. It looks like Steve Rada, he's going to be coming down, so you expect most of this group, if not all, coming down here.
They were 2, 3 wide. Connor Hoare trying to get in, and they were 3 wide trying to figure out how to get onto pit road. That's not what you want to see. It's going to be Mitchell Muma leading that charge of cars. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, 4 wide pit road right now, folks. What more can you ask for? These guys, I mean, and the crazy thing is, the 41 Strayer maybe bounced off his pit wall a little bit there. Looks like everybody else, for the most part, clean, though.
Hoff, Horn, able to come into their pit stops very cleanly. Hoff looked a little odd, as I thought maybe he missed his pit box.
It's looking like a splash for these guys, too. I don't see pretty much most of this group just took a splash of gas, and they're gone.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye out on cars that are trying to get going again, as cars are trying to get going as quick as possible.
Here comes Nick Olson, that second group that pitted, or that first group that pitted, excuse me.
Will Olson be able to pull past by everyone here? That is the real question, as cars are still trying to get up to speed. Olson, Robbie Lyons, as well as Lucas Cram, they're going to be trying to figure out how to cycle their way through as cars are merging back onto the track.
We're coming down to the closing few laps of the stage here. It's going to be dicey. Does anybody pull a big block? We'll see.
I mean, it looks like Hoff as well as Horn got up to speed just in time. But a car that is shocking me right now, Alex Bell. We were talking about how he was so far back. He's now in the top. He's in the top 5, almost top 10. I mean, top 10 is incredible with the fact that he was all the way back in around 27th position at one point.
Well, and you got to remember, Horn was back there in like 19th before these pit stops as well. So these guys playing it right. And you know how they did it? They were part of that second group that pitted. And what that does is all of a sudden now you put yourself in the driver's seat, be able to kind of fall into the lead group all of a sudden as long as you had a clean stop. And that's what they did. And that's why they've been so strong all season, because they know how to take the right opportunities to get themselves back up front.
Shifting up and down, our top 10 all within striking distance here. Jared Darling, also another driver that's up here. Blake Trewick was not able to move up. And Lucas Strayer, Gavin Jones, our biggest losers, as well as Blake Trewick, that are outside of the top 10. And they are not in striking distance at all to try to find themselves in the top 10 here, coming to the end of the stage. As we are coming to 2 laps to go at the end of lap 35, is when stage 1 will come to the end, and a lot of points to be earned.
Yeah, I wonder how bad this is going to get in terms of some of these guys with the blocks or maybe the hard shoves. You can see all the blue banners up in this top 10 and blue spoilers. A lot of playoff drivers trying to get those points that you're talking about. It might get ugly here.
There's maybe only 3-4 drivers in this pack that are not a part of our top 12, and that is incredible to be seen. 3 of our top 12 not close into this front groove, as Bell coming down in front of Olson. Olson kind of had a shimmy a little bit there to try to make sure he didn't run over the 15. Now moves up to the high side, and it's going to be Kobe Wells that has nowhere to go but to push this 24 machine.
Wells, Horn, and Olson were just nose to tail right there. I mean, almost lifting each other off the ground. That is a bold move by Nick Olson. He's right back to the lead.
right back to the bottom side. They've got to watch Jared Darling, though. Going to have Spillman and others following suit on that third lane, and that's some fast cars up there. That's how well that's going to be. I mean, how it's going to be moving and looking for some help. Now to the outside, it's going to be Hoff. Dude, that outside groove looking good. The middle lane is kind of scattering where cars are going to be.
A lot of snaking I'm seeing. That tells me guys are looking. They're digging. Oh, almost got shoved out down there. The Robbie Lyons. Look at this top line. There goes Kobe Wells all of a sudden to the bottom line leader.
Now it's all about crossing the line, where you're going to be once the yellow comes out. This is the white flag of stage 1. This is why we're 3 wide. The drivers are hunting for points. Who's going to get them? Who's not?
That outside line might get the run out of the try over here at third line, but it might be Connor Horn at the line. We'll see. It's going to be Connor Horn, I think.
Connor Horn, Brandon Hoff, and cars just ducking to the inside. I think that was Bell that just had to get out of there, hoping that they didn't cause any wrecks. But man, these cars are going to shuffle up, get stacked up. But man, Tyler.
Yeah, officially, Connor Horn does win that stage. Off right there. Wells, Cram, and Darling, top 5, all playoff drivers. And then Olsen finished in P6. Our first 6 of the stage, all playoff drivers. Folks, that was the end of a stage. That was the end of the race. We still got 40 laps to go here. Oh, my goodness.
3 wide coming across the line here at the end of stage 1, and now it's racing to the end. If these drivers keep it green, it's going to be really one pit stop to make it to the end. I don't think, I mean, with cars now stacking up, and playoff drivers going to be thinking about getting up front, there is going to be a lot of chaos here as drivers getting ready for pit stops. And as we do get ready for pit stops, we're going to take a quick side-by-side commercial break. You won't miss a thing as pit stops getting ready to go underway.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the Veterans of Foreign Wars and fights for the veterans community.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
Most everyone involved in sim racing always wants that edge or even make the experience a little bit better, or in this case, a little bit more in-depth. Enter iRacing iFlag. iFlag is a simulation signal box with software designed by Peter Vostro. When you are behind the wheel in iRacing, your eyes are looking down the track or maybe even in the rear or side view mirrors. You may not notice or even hear when the caution comes out, when your car is damaged, or if you get black flagged, or even notice the car beside you. Yes, iFlag will point out the size and tell you where that car is. It just makes iRacing more real and can help you become a better driver. We also offer iRacing iFlag Digital Pit Box. This small box is a great addition to any sim rig. With only 3.5 inches wide, it gives you all the information you need, including how many laps completed, how much fuel you will need to finish, what lap you need to pit on, laps so your fuel is empty, as well as weather and track conditions. It also switches when you come down pit road for more information, including what lap you're pitting under, tire wear, laps on tires, fuel average, and much, much more. To see more info, check us out today at iracingiflag.com.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the veterans of foreign wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the veterans of foreign wars and fights for the veterans community.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
Most everyone involved in sim racing always wants that edge or even make the experience a little bit better, or in this case, a little bit more in-depth. Enter iRacing iFlag. iFlag is a simulation signal box with software designed by Peter Vostro. When you are behind the wheel in iRacing, your eyes are looking down the track or maybe even in the rear or side view mirrors. You may not notice or even hear when the caution comes out, when your car is damaged, or if you get black flag, or even notice the car beside you. Yes, iFlag will point out the signs and tell you where that car is. It just makes iRacing more real and can help you become a better driver. We also offer iRacing iFlag Digital Pit Box. This small box is a great addition to any sim rig. With only 3.5 inches wide, it gives you all the information you need, including how many laps completed, how much fuel you will need to finish, what lap you need to pit on, laps till your fuel is empty, as well as weather and track conditions. It also switches when you come down pit road for more information, including what lap you're pitting under, tire wear.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SARG Superspeedway Series. It's the first race of the playoffs here, and right now, Christopher Tate's going to be leading the way with Lucas Cram on the outside. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Tyler Riggs as we're getting ready to go green after stage number 1.
Been a fantastic race so far. That first stage was drama-filled. Excited to see what happened here as we are green for the second stage.
Lucas Cram going to get a much better start than what the 4 did, and I'm looking at these drivers and the little strategies that they're doing. I mean, Tyler, Christopher Tate did not come into the pits during that stage break that we had. He's going to be staying out, trying to stay up front with these drivers.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just because the fuel window is so tight, I don't know if it's worth it to stay out. But he has been one of those guys, as we talked about, will spend a couple laps kind of up front for these restarts and then decide to find a point to drop back. So maybe he's knowing he could save a little bit of fuel that way, and is comfortable with that. But the one thing I'm not shocked about early on the stage course, Lucas Cram, Nick Olson, all those guys just reasserting themselves up front and trying to be out in front, leading those laps.
Yeah, right now, Kyle Diker going to be probably the most shocking thing. Seeing that 2 car in our top 10. Haven't seen him in the top 10 at all, as that 2 machine in the purple and orange going to be trying to make his moves on that high side, and so far doing a great job. Is looks like a lot of these contenders that we saw that were up front at the end of the stage, who were lingering back because of their damage that they had, they're going straight to the back again.
Yeah, got to. You cannot risk getting, where your truck's torn up before you even have a chance at the win. So, no doubt that's a fair strategy. But yeah, Dagger, he, unknowingly played a big part last week of Treywick making the playoffs because he didn't show up for the race. He's one of those guys decided to just kind of, be chilled out. He didn't necessarily, he was in the top 20, but felt like maybe he just didn't have the shot to win, or something came up, probably more likely. But that played a big factor because that was one of the few reasons that Treywick was able to sneak in. So I don't know if he's got that in the back of his mind coming into tonight.
Also, other drivers that are up here, Kyle Menger, a driver that just missed out on having a chance to battle out for the playoffs. Going to be 3rd car on that outside lane in that 5 machine. And now we're starting to see Clint Spillman onto the high side looking for some help. No one going to help him. Now he's going to be starting to drop back. Kobe Wells is going to be further back as well, as now we're starting to see the 95 machine of Curtis Lewis going to be on the inside of that purple machine, trying to make some moves on the inside. And we're starting to see a lot of cars merging to that high line, just dropping back as Brendan Hoff says, I want to get to the front, and other cars scattering all over the place.
Yeah, we wonder kind of how the tone was going to be to start this second stage, knowing that now stage points are off the table. It's all about getting yourself in position for the end of this race, and you could tell with Hoff, Graham, and Olsen, they want to be up front and in charge. Robbie Line still staying in there, third car on the bottom, the third truck on the bottom. And just, as we talked about at the top of the broadcast, saying the split between guys in the playoffs who are saying, hey, I'm going to be up front the entire race controlling it, versus the guys that are saying, you know what, I want to be there at the end with a good finish. It's all mind games in this first race because you do not want to get off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of these drivers. They've been up front the whole entire time. Brandon Hoff, Lucas Cram, Nick Olsen. They've been known all season long to be up front and stay up front. Other drivers have been known to be up front. Connor Horn and Alex Bell, they were involved in that first accident, and they're going to be staying back, kind of watching to see what is going to happen, because we're starting to see 3 wide action here around around 10th place. And this is kind of shocking to see, with drivers being bold enough to go 3 wide once again. Kind of the similar stage that we were starting to see with our first caution, with drivers starting to go 3 wide early on in the stage.
Yeah, it's Gavin Jones and Lucas Strayer up there trying to hook up and lead that third line charge that you're talking about. That is a good pairing. I mean, that's 2 guys that have shown some good speed and especially present themselves, at these points in the race, but have had the bad luck factor, still made the playoffs, obviously. But man, I mean, they want to be up there, but look at the help they're getting. I don't know if it's the good help, but we're going to have 3 wide again for the lead in a couple laps if these groups stay together like they are.
Yeah, we're starting to see that third lane really start to become something now. I mean, there's more cars on that third groove than there are in the middle lane, and we know once they start getting that momentum built up on the high line, they can really start cruising up to the front. Lucas Cram, though, making that middle lane work at the moment, getting some help for there, and trying to get some more help from Nick Olsen and other cars behind him. I mean, Tyler...
Cram's rear bumper looks a little bit better, Sam, so I wonder if he repaired it a bit. Did take a fast repair, obviously, but maybe got it repaired up a bit more, because he's being notably better at the front of the line right here than he was in that first stage.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the times, I mean, right now that driver's been getting a lot of damage repair, and it was in the pits a little bit longer than some of the other drivers have been, so it makes sense that some damage repair would be done there. Also, for these drivers to look out for is we are about around 12 to 11 laps away from pit stops, opening up for these drivers to have their 1 pit stop during this race. And we saw that it really, I mean, throughout the season, pit stops just split up these groups so much, just based on drivers, on how much they carry their speed in, how well they get out of the pits, and if they make any mistakes or if they don't. A lot of factors come in to why drivers are getting so scattered once pit stops happen.
Right. Well, and you got to be smart about where you are when you pit. So we noticed that, Alex Bell and Horn were nowhere to be seen in that front pack right until the end, because they pitted with the second group, and that put them, in the right rotation to be up there. I imagine they might be playing in something similar again. So you got to take note. If you're in the back, maybe it's better to, pit the second time around after that first group goes down. Be something interesting to watch, but hey, look at this outside line. It's just, there's been so much shuffling going on, Sam, with these guys, that the outside line's really broken up. They can't decide if they want to just stay 2x2, if they really want to get that third line going.
Yeah, right now Spillman and Gavin Jones could be the leaders of that third lane. That middle group, like you said, kind of scattered, as the 2 Machine of Dagger going to be just stuck where he's at, as you've got yourself Cram, as well as I believe that's Manger going to be leading that middle groove, and everyone else, I think they're just dropping back, waiting for their times to really have to pit, or they're just resetting for now and saying, hey, let's take a quick breather, and then we'll get back to 3 wide racing.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a few times this season, but you do, to a degree, have to watch your temps with these trucks. It can get to the point where you're overheating, so that does create situations where some guys just drop to kind of cool down, but we haven't seen a lot of that today. It's just been kind of a, as you were talking about, guys trying to figure out where they want to be in the pack. How about Stephen Gale, that 52? 4th truck on the inside. He was involved in that big first wreck, of course, like most other trucks were, but he's rebounded pretty well. He had been kind of hiding back a bit. Now he's up here trying to maybe get himself in a spot to lead. Yeah,
I mean, Stephen Gale was also involved in being shoved out of the way at one point. A lot of woes have happened to this 52 machine, but still find himself up in the top 10 and really showing. I mean, Gale's had a strong car at times. This 52 machine has been a great pusher, hasn't really been leading a lot of laps, but has always been really in the lanes that start moving forward. So always keep your mind out with this blue machine. Where he's at, that's usually where the line is starting to move.
Speaking of the lines, that outside line or that second line, whatever you want to call it, starting to reform pretty well. They've got a good train of trucks. But Spillman in the 88, he keeps dipping out, trying to get somebody to go with him. And it's just nobody wants to go right now.
I mean, I know a car that would work really well with Spillman, but he's kind of drifting back and about to meet him. That's going to be the one of Jared Darling. Darling, at the first half of the season, was notoriously known as the car that was third in line on the inside for like our first 3-4 races. He was always in that spot and just was never in a position to win the race, but was always there pushing the inside line. Now we're starting to see cars on that back half starting to fan out a little bit, but there's a lot of drivers getting ready.
They're going to put Hoff in the sucker hole. It looks like they might for a split second. Lyon and Nick Olson out there with Banger. What a push.
I mean, that was a fabulous push. That whole entire group is one moving up out of the way and then moving their way forward. Nick Olson now going to be trying on the high line, trying to get some help. Here comes Brandon Hoff in the 9 machine. See if Hoff and also Jones going to be trying to help, as they're going to be doing the same thing, going to the high side, trying to make that middle lane be the sucker hole. And I'm wondering if any of these drivers watched, during Monday night, there was a race there, Superspeedway Racing, where Kyle Busch made a lot of aggressive moves. I wonder if anyone took some notes after that race, because there's a lot of footage of it and a lot of people that were analyzing how Kyle Busch really got through the field. If anyone's going to take those notes and really utilize it for this race.
Well, between that and then Dale Jr. very publicly being about, hey, at these super speedways, try to lead every lap and try to act like every lap's the last lap. Between those two things, Sam, I think that's probably caused a lot of intensity pickup across all of iRacing.
I mean, those are two of probably the quickest guys at Superspeedway Racing and really know how to make their way through the field. It's all about really having the guts to make some moves sometimes. And right now, it's been amazing to watch these cars still shuffling up and down. Looking at the back half of the field, though, you got Kobe Wells, as well as Jared Darling and Connor Horn. Those are your 3 drivers that are outside of the top 20 that are kind of just waiting and lingering until they need to start making their move forward. Also, pit stops within 5 laps once they cross the line. Once we'll start seeing drivers coming into the pits.
How about this 5 of Kyle Banger? We've talked a couple times now about he just heartbrokenly got knocked out of playoffs because of Treywick sneaking in. He's saying, hey, you know what? Forget it. We're starting anew here. We're trying to get that tub. And he's been aggressive. I mean, he has been trying to plant himself up front in front of some of these playoff guys, and that's what you got to do. You can't, obviously, want to be courteous to some of the playoff guys when necessary or when required, but other than that, you're still racing for yourself. Oh, Lyons jumping up top trying to get himself back to lead.
Robbie Lyons, we've seen him make this move back in stage 1. He's going to be doing it again on the inside. Corrigan's going to be ducking into the apron, and 95. I think that's going to be Lewis.
Yep.
As Lewis going to be stuck on the apron and really now going to be trying to find some space up. Does, but luckily everyone is scattered behind him. Still going to be able to stay in the draft. I mean, we've seen that multiple times now today, Tyler. That's probably the most we've seen cars really getting pushed out of the way. Usually we see in the first couple of laps on a restart, drivers just ducking to the apron, falling back, and just trying to make their second group. This has looked like a complete different of cars just hitting someone on the wrong quarter panel and really pushing them out of the way.
Yeah, it's that less give that we're talking about, because typically, you might let off just a bit, like a try over a corner to make sure you don't spin a guy out, but guys are testing the waters on that quite a bit more. They're being, advantageous to try and make sure that they're taking it as far as they can. And because of that shuffling on the bottom, that gave that move by Robbie Lyons what he did to jump to the outside an even bigger advantage, because he quickly was able to get down in front of Brendan Hoff again. So it's something, you got to know not only to pick your spots, when to pick your spots, but know kind of who's going to be comfortable taking a big push or who's not.
Car that had to come into the pits. It's going to be Chris Sawyer coming into the pits and going to be pulling out all on his lonesome. I also believe Christopher Tate might have come in, so not completely by himself, but those 2 drivers But with just 2 trucks, I think that might be just a little bit too much for them to try to stay with this lead pack once they have to come in here in the next 3 laps or so.
Yeah, no doubt. And it looks like Kobe Wells, unfortunately, as you were kind of talking about, how he's going to get swooped up, be a lap down. We do have now, this is going to be 4 lap down trucks. 1 lap down, then 2 laps down to Jake Block leader. So this group, man, tough break for Wells. That's not what you want to do, right? I mean,
Absolutely not.
For a playoff driver, you need a great finish here. So we'll see if that breaks for him or not.
Right now, Kobe Wells is thinking, I need a caution and not be involved, and then I'll get the lucky dog spot. But, I mean, just now getting by Lewis, who had to come into the pits after being shuffled. Drivers are now kind of getting pinched into difficult situations. Kobe Wells was a driver that really could not have this type of a day. Needed to finish in the top 5, try to gain as many points on these front drivers and points, as he was 21 points back going into today. And this is going to dig him even a bigger hole. You talked about how for some of these front drivers, a win might not put you in a winning position to win the championship, but an awful day like this certainly could make it so it's impossible or almost impossible.
Yeah, well, and you heard, Dingo Spillman talking about one of our drivers, one of our top 3, talking last week about how they had to chase the entire playoffs, right? Because they started in that hole. And just how important it is to come out and be aggressive, and at least for them to make sure that they didn't have to do that. I think it was Hoff maybe, or Cram, one of the 2 talked about that. But, it's what you got to do. It's what you got to do. And as we get closer to these pit stops now, you notice that things have calmed down all of a sudden very quickly with a lot of these guys getting ready to have to pit. So.
Yeah, it's so incredible to watch. I mean, just because this is a super speedway series, the drivers just knowing it. Okay, now it's cool-off time. We're not going to make any super aggressive moves, as we're seeing some drivers popping up and down. But you're not trying to make any moves that should be wrecking anyone. If you got space, you're going to put your car there, and you're not going to be putting anyone into a difficult position, as these drivers, like you said, setting up for pit stops. And I'm believing it's probably going to be next lap, as cars are going by this time and it's going to be 20 laps they've been on these tires.
To this point, it has been radio silent across the chat as far as pit stops. So we'll see if that picks up this lap like you're talking about. They may stretch it a lap or 2 more. Here in Olsen Nicholson trying to get down. He wants to get down, so that tells me either trying to watch that lap truck or trying to be able to get maybe to a position to pit this time by as we come up on that lap truck.
Coming up and around the lap car of Christopher Tate, who just could not get himself locked up with any other driver. Is going to be going a lap down, going to be the first car lap down at the moment, as Kobe Wells is going to be trying to pass this 4 machine as quick as possible, but has not done it just yet, as drivers are still staying out this time by. I mean, this is not a bad move for them, as they're going to continue to push on, but interesting to see that the drivers are still battling as strong as they are, still side by side, but you're starting to see that back of the lead pack single filing up.
Yeah, those guys on the outside are wanting to get down. They really want to get down, and trying to be able to get themselves in a good spot. I'm hearing Newsom's about to pit in the 50, so here they come. You're about to get a big group this time by, maybe Robbie Lyons as well. So as we've talked about, got to nail this pit stop if you want a chance at the win.
This pit stop could cost you the win unless a caution comes out. This possibly could be your money stop. If we go green to the end, as cars ducking to the inside, and here they come, Hoff, Lyon, they all scatter 4, 5, 6 wide at times as they're all coming in. Hoff going to be leading the charge.
That was a massive group. That's pretty much everybody in the front right there, not a 2-group split like we saw in the first stage.
That was everyone. Ooh. That was everyone in that lead pack just came in. And if you make a mistake here, this could be very costly, because if you lose any type of the draft here, who knows if anyone else is going to be on your back bumper trying to help you out.
See, it looks like maybe some 2-tire, no-tire stops going on as well, so that'd be interesting to see.
Gale going to be missing the pit box for that 52 machine.
Tough break for him. And he's had some of those mistakes, unfortunately, You want to be perfect, but man, especially when you're 4, 5, 6 wide coming in like that and having to get into the bottleneck of pit road all of a sudden, it gets real easy to lose track of where your pit stall is, maybe your speed or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it so far multiple times this race. And missing your pit box is something that is disastrous for your race overall. But now the drivers have pitted; they're good to go. 18 laps to go. Gall going to be leading the way at the moment, but we know this 52 machine's got to come into the pits, get fuel, and does, now leading the group up front. It's going to be the 24, but here comes Clint Spillman on the inside. Going to be trying to make a pass as it's our front four that are in line. But don't look now. They're kind of sitting ducks as a massive group are all single filed up and about to charge on our front four.
Yeah, Hoffman got himself out to the lead of all this by just a bit of a margin, and Olsen, Menger, and Spillman all trained up, got around him, and then they all started fighting for the lead themselves, as you saw there. Quickly, they're getting it lined up, so that way that didn't happen to them with those that big second group that you talked about that's closing in on. But you could see pretty easy now the split between the people that messed up or maybe didn't have the greatest pit stop, or maybe just
it's the 2 tires between 4 tires. That's the difference, and it's a 4.2 and continues to grow gap between the drivers that are up front as we're 3 wide for the lead. And this seems a little early to be going 3 wide, especially the fact that those 4-tire cars, if they start getting going, they might be able to run you guys down.
Yeah, but they know they've also got that buffer to mix it up a little bit, right? I mean, it's going to take some cooperation, some work with that second group to be able to make up that gap. So these guys, a little bit of Wild West stuff right here, trying to decide who's going to be the leader. Hoff and Olsen are fighting super hard for this right now. And you see Hoff. Oh, and there's a wreck in the second pack.
Wreck in the second pack. It's going to be Dagger, I believe, that's going to be involved in this one, as well as Clark. As we'll take a quick replay to figure out what exactly happened in the second pack to bring out our second racing incident and our third official caution of the day.
Oh, yeah, that was one that, boy, probably shouldn't have happened right there as a wreck.
No, yeah, they were forcing the issue there. Clark hard into the wall, Dagger spins as well.
Don't know if Clark just didn't see him, underneath him, or maybe got a bad call from the spotter or what, but just honestly, unfortunately, no reason to kind of move down into that, Dagger being an innocent bystander. And that is not what that first group wanted to see at all. They were enjoying being up there by themselves. You had guys, like Trey Wick and Connor Horn that were stuck all the way back there in that second group. Now they're going to get a crack at it.
As we're now going to take a quick replay. I mean, you saw Dagger there, went for a spin. We're now going to take a cockpit view of what this 2 machine had to deal with. Doing a nice 360 here down the front stretch. I mean, at times, some drivers just practice this move. And just like that, saving the 2 machine, and away he goes.
Yeah, that's a situation where you have to remain calm, because when you all of a sudden just get, doored or nailed in the quarter panel without knowing what's coming right there, which very much was that situation for Dagger. Great job by him to not freak out, not overcorrect, and kind of end himself right there into the wall, as you mentioned. Just looked nice and calm, spun it out, kept himself under control, and saves your truck.
Now, with us having pace laps here for this caution, do you suspect anyone coming into the pits maybe get a splash of fuel just so that you're good in case we go to a green-white checkered?
Oh man, that is a great question. I mean, obviously we have 3 green whites in this series to be able to use. And I think you have to kind of have it in the back of your mind. I really do. If you're not in the top 10, I would say, and you're part of that second group, it wouldn't hurt to come in and get that splash and just try to make sure that you're fueled to the max, because we are definitely at the lap point where I think you'd be good if you have to go on some green-white checkers.
And looking at some of the drivers that came in, had issues and hurt them, as we're starting to see drivers filing into the pits. Lucas Strayer going to be leading that charge of cars. And looking back, I don't believe Colby Wells got the lucky dog for that 45 machine, which is disastrous. Still 1 lap down, but as long as he can become the first car 1 lap down and then a caution comes out again, he's not involved, there's a chance that he could be still gaining more points, but he's asking for a prayer at this point.
Yeah, but hey, all these super speedways, anything can happen, right? I mean, we've seen it. We've seen guys like Steve Roddick come from a couple laps down and have some finishes, so it's possible. That caution, though, was definitely big from Christopher Tate. Mentioned how he had fallen a lap down. He is back. He's on the lead lap, ready to go.
Tyler, I don't know if you have the ability to go back and check, but I don't remember if Blake Trawick had utilized his fast repair yet, or if he was manually repairing that car because he still has a lot of rear end damage that he did not take a fast repair for.
Yeah, I believe he's been working on it throughout the entirety since that first caution there. So just been going at it. I think that's smart, just to try to make sure you save that for as late as possible. The issue with that is, especially when you get to this point of the race, knowing there's only a few laps to go or a handful of laps to go, you don't want to be in a situation where you say, I'll wait for the next caution, and then all of a sudden there's not another caution, right? I mean, that's the worst feeling, because you're like, why did I do that? I just wasted an opportunity. And with Treywick's damage, he probably isn't as fast as he wants to be, but it's a tough call. It definitely is a tough call.
Another driver we haven't really talked much about. We've talked about him being up and pushing. That's going to be Gavin Jones in this 12 machine. Gavin Jones has shown a lot of pace on that outside groove. Someone to keep our eye on for a driver that's been showing pace to be up front. I'm also interested to see Connor Horn and Darling and Bell. We've only seen them coming to the end of stage 1. That's when they had their charge. What are they going to do now here, coming with a little bit more than 10 laps to go? It's going to be sketchy.
It's going to be a free-for-all. There's no doubt about it. If you weren't excited by those last couple weeks of the regular season of those finishes, folks, picture that again. There's going to be, if I was a betting man, which, I'm not going to say I am. If I was a betting man, though, I would probably bank on at least a white flag wreck. It's somebody's going to get a little too crazy. That's what makes it so dang fun.
Oh, we've seen multiple white wrecks on the white flag. I think the most we had was maybe 3 to 4. We had a car that was wrecking after we got the white flag into 1, and then another 2 wrecks on the back stretch, and then another one coming out of 4. You aren't safe until you cross the line, which then, even if you cross the line, you're still in trouble of getting hit there.
No doubt about it. But, man, now we got, we mentioned Connor Horn, you mentioned Gavin Jones. Blake Treywick, he'll be up here. That's some guys like Quinn Gingrich, who has played a factor the last few weeks of, either pushing somebody or just kind of making things interesting at the end. He's all the way back in 18th. They're now going to have that chance. Lucas Strayer all the way back in 24th. He's obviously going to be trying to work his way up there now. So, oh boy, a lot to watch here. And Sam, how soon do you think we see 3 wide after this green flag is dropped?
I would give maybe 2 to 3 laps, maybe at most.
I'm going a half lap. A half lap.
That's a solid guess. Honestly, these drivers could be going 3 wide action. I'm saying at least a lap, at the least, most 3 laps. We're gonna get 3 wide action really quick. And I'm looking at the cars that are on the outside. Connor Horn, Darling, other drivers that we've seen not be afraid to go to that 3rd groove. I think Connor Horn might be the driver that leads that charge on the outside. And you got Alex Bell stuck on the inside, so he's got to find a way to get up there or just start pushing his way and hope cars in front of him start making some bad moves. But this is going to be an interesting one for sure. As you're watching the SARG Superspeedway Series, this is the first race of the NS Service playoffs for these drivers. And this is the TI Racing 199. Tyler, it's been crazy for sure for these drivers from the drop of the hat to now, but it's only going to get crazier because this is the first race of the playoffs. This is a statement race. You're needing as many points as possible. You already got stage points for some of these drivers, but who's going to get the win and who's going to get the most money and some money?
Green flag back in the air. Everybody strapped tight right there on that final pace lap, and here we go. Look at the push on the outside already by Olsen and Kyle Manger doing a great job in that 5 truck, just giving them a shove. Are they going to be able to stick it? Will Olsen be able to get that lead? Yeah, the inside lane coming back.
Ooh, Stillman almost got onto the apron, and that could have been terrible if he got any lower, really. That could have gotten him loose and bumped him up, or he could have just spun it around and taken out the whole entire low lane as they're still scattering and trying to figure out where they're going to go on the back half of the field, as that was going to be Jones who was thinking about doing something there.
A little bit dicey back there. Everybody trying to scramble and work their way up and pick their spots. I see the 56 of Treywick making some moves back there with his damaged truck. I see Newsom in the 50 who's up front at one point here. He's trying to make some moves, but 2x2. I was wrong, Sam. You might be right. It didn't take a half lap. Might be about 2 or 3 laps here before we really start seeing that big time 3 wide.
I mean, it takes time for these trucks to get up to speed and really get their momentum going, and then you're going to start to see drivers feeling comfortable of, okay, I've got the speed, I've got the momentum, let's throw it up there and hope that someone else comes with me. You got some friends maybe up here that you've been working with all season long. You got some daredevils that aren't afraid to really make moves in space where there really isn't any. Excited to see where these drivers are going to go. As 11 laps to go, about to be 10 laps when they cross the line. Who's going to go 3 wide? We don't know just yet. But up front, Kyle Menger going to be on that outside lane. Nick Olson on the inside. And we just wait and see who's going to be the one that makes the move or who's going to be shoving their lane the fastest.
Tell you what, if I'm Olson and Hoff, I am battling for the right to be able to jump up in front of Menger. He has been such an excellent pusher here in the second half of this race. Just got Olson to the lead, but how about Brett Murphy in that 11, a guy who had some speed in the regular season, came up short a couple of times. He's given Menger a great push now.
Yeah, and you also got Jarrett Darling going to be following suit. Then you got Connor Horn and also Gavin Jones. Gavin Jones has pushed a couple of cars up to the front. Excited to see what he's going to be doing. Is Gal going to be almost completely shoved out of the way again? That 52 machine has had a wild day and continues to see that here at this moment. Looking to see where Bell's at. Bell's stuck on that inside lane, really kind of just boxed in, nowhere to go. As these drivers are coming out of 4, coming to 9 laps to go when they cross the line. Still haven't gone 3 wide here, Tyler. And this is looking kind of back to when we saw Connor Horn win his race here at Talladega, where they just stayed 2x2 all the way to the end.
Yeah, because what it is, Sam, is truly those guys on that outside line don't want to be the first guy to jump up and then all of a sudden, get left out to dry or get shuffled back. So it's kind of a game of chicken of who's going to be the first guy. And really, there's ways to do it and still succeed, but it is tough if you're that first guy jump out. Had almost a bit of a wreck there. And one, I saw Stephen Gale again. Boy, he's getting shoved around into that 52.
I mean, I'll be honest, the question that I have never asked you all season long, but we're starting to see it a lot here. When you're on that inside lane, how difficult is it trying to arc your truck into these corners? Because it's looking like it's getting more and more difficult for these drivers on the middle to the back half of the field.
Oh, it sucks, especially when you're so nose to tail. That's the worst because it's so hard to know where the line is. I mean, you obviously you feel like you feel dumb because you're like, okay, I should know. But when you're locked in on following the truck in front of you, if they make a slight bobble or something, then all of a sudden you're doing the same thing because you're just trying to stay with them. So it is incredibly hard. I am definitely a guy, driver-wise, that prefers to be the Connor Horn type of the outside, trying to make that work just because of the boxed-in factor on that inside line.
8 laps to go, and throughout the day we've been seeing the cloud cover come in and out. It is really over this track now. The track is really starting to cool off, and it's going to be giving these drivers a lot more grip, a lot more speed, and we'll see how much more they can carry into these corners. As we're starting to see up to the high side, that's going to be Brett Murphy. Excuse me, that's not Brett Murphy.
Gavin Jones.
That's going to be Gavin Jones going to be on the outside for that 12 machine. And we've already started it off now. It's got also the 5 going to be up there. And did Alex Bell just move from the inside to the top?
And then here comes Connor Horn. Here comes Darlin Horn moving back down. He said, no, thank you. And now he's going to try to take that spot. It's getting dicey. Told you it was going to be a fight for that third line because guys feel like that's some great momentum. They've seen it in action. It does not take as many trucks on that very top line to do some work as long as you got some good trucks up there.
I mean, these are 4 drivers that can make things work. Gavin Jones, Christopher Tate already have proved that they can push cars to the high side and up to the front. Alex Bell, he's going to be already known for being the Pied Piper of the high line. As Gull's going to be pushed to the inside again onto the apron. That 52 machine once again gets shoved out of the way.
We're going to see a couple more of those trucks probably get shoved out of the way here in the final few laps. It's about to get crazy. You're seeing Darlene and Bill sticking to the outside. Not a lot of help out there, though.
I don't see us going to the white flag. There's no way, especially with the way that this middle lane has just been pinching the bottom groove all the way through the tri-oval into the entry of turn number 1. It's been so aggressive at times that they are giving not even a breath for the drivers on the inside. If you make one bobble, you could be causing a lot of wrecks. Connor Horn not going to be trying to lead that outside groove as he's going to get a shove from Darling and others from that third lane. We're going to be seeing ourselves 3 wide action here soon for the lead. Connor Horn on the outside.
And so smart by Horn. He had the opportunity earlier. You saw him try to duck up there and take the lead, but he went back down because Darling made the same move in front of him, so he waited for the right time to be able to jump up in front of Darling, and now he's going to benefit big. Look at the push there by the one truck.
It's going to be Nick Olson on the inside. Middle groove going to be led by Kyle Manger, and then you've got yourself Connor Horn and Darling on the high side, and here they come.
They're
Darling and
clear.
They're just going to drop down straight to the inside. And this is where we've been seeing both these drivers feeling the most comfortable is down there, as Bell going to be kind of trying to use a little bit of side draft with that 5 car to be making some moves. And now Darling going to move to the center groove and trying to make a lead here as the one machine trying to be the first car up front. 5 laps to go as the shuffling is going to continue on from here, as really we're waiting and looming for the big one to strike.
Is it completely up?
What? Believe we're still going and we're still live. Up front, it's going to be Connor Horn, Manger, and Darling, the leaders up front. As these drivers, 4 laps to go. Still hard charging up front, and it is aggressive at the moment. We had a little bit of a blip there for our side of things as we still continue to stay green. It's going to be Manger on the outside now as they all are starting to see that third groove just drop away. But it's going to be Gerald Darling going to be leading the charge on the inside. It's going to be actually the 11, Brett Murphy, leading the way. As now they're 3 wide. Gavin Jones and Christopher Tate trying to make that third lane groove work the best that they can. Coming to 3 laps to go.
Crazy stuff going on here, Sam. This is just, I mean, I don't know how they make it to the white flag.
I really don't know at all. 3 laps to go for these drivers, and it's still going to be Brett Murphy going to be getting a huge shove from Connor Horn as the 11 now leading the charge. As we're looking at some of the cars that are not going to be on the lead lap, Colby Wells hoping for a caution to come out now so that he could get on the lead lap and make a possible chance here, but it is not looking good for himself at the moment. We have 2 cars that officially have DNF'd. That's going to be Jordan Clark and Jacob Locklear. But up front, Connor Horn going to be on that middle groove, middle lane, making a charge and up to the front, but it's going to be on the inside, leading this race at the moment, Brett Murphy. And now we're going to be seeing Gerald Darling going to the middle lane now. He was second in line and really trying to make any move possible to the lead.
Nobody's safe in the lead at this point. You see it right there, Murphy just back got spun out. Holy smokes.
As now it's 2 laps to go. Brett Murphy still on the inside. He's now going to have Nick Olson, and Nick Olson has been known to make the same move that we just saw the one make. As it's coming out of the corner, you just find a space and an opening to just shoot out. But who's going to make that third lane groove work as well as Murphy gets a little bit of a shove and they scatter a little bit on the inside? That's going to be Nick Olson. It's their 4 wide now for the lead, and they're still trying to get things situated. The 1's now going to be leading on the inside. Here comes the 5. Here comes the 67. And who else is going to be making a charge now?
How in the world did they not wreck right there? My goodness.
It's going to be coming to the white flag. If we get the white flag, we go to the end. Right now, Gerald Darling, Kyle Manker, and Nick Olson is going to be your top 3. But it's going to be the 11, the 1 on the inside, the 5 in the middle. Who's going to get it done? White flag in the air. We're racing to the end.
Boy, I tell you what, Manker might be in the best spot right here. He's in that middle line, being able to really choose what he wants to do, how he wants to defend. That inside's a good place, though. Watch out for the 9, though, of Hoff. And who's going to jump up in front? Is that Alex Bell coming? Yes, it is.
Alex Bell, he made this move back in week 2 when he won at Talladega. He's trying to go again as they're in the wall on the back half of the field, but they keep racing on. Alex Bell going to continue going. Spillman into the wall as they're 3 wide for the lead. Gerald Darling on the inside, but is Alex Bell going to get enough help? He's looking for some help from the 9 car, but on the middle lane, it's going to be Nick Olson, Connor Horn, all charging ahead as we come into the tri-oval.
Olson's got the momentum. Can he keep it through travel? Now they're wrecking behind him again. Olson drops down in front of Darling.
Olson to the line. It looks like Connor Horn might have gotten second place. He does. Gerald Darling going to get 3rd, and cars wrecking in the back half all over the place. Treywick back in 16th place. Hoff in 14th. Oh my goodness. So many cars that are still trying to figure out where placement's going to be. but Nick Olson made the move that mattered the most into turn number 3 that found himself on the high side and then making the pass on Gerald Darling.
Second win of the season for Nick Olson, and probably just, I mean, the absolute guts to be able to trust what you're doing, make that move, make it stick. I mean, there's so many ways that could go wrong, but kudos to Nick Olson, and kudos to really that front 6 or so, because the wrecks were not in front right there. It was in the back, guys trying to, claw their way up there. So fantastic finish. Knew it was going to come down to the wire. Less than a half-tenth officially for the gap between, well, technically between the top 3, pretty much a half-tenth between them. And they're all 3 playoff guys, Olson, Horn, and Darling, officially the top 3 there. And how about Kyle Menger? Applaud him for the effort here today. We talked about those guys that, are not in the playoffs. They got nothing to lose at this point. He put on a great show up front. Lucas Cram probably wishing, I think he may have not quite used that fast repair at the end. We talked about that. Some of those guys decide not to use it. Maybe wishing he had that, but my goodness.
Yeah, as we're looking here, Nick Olson gonna be your winner. Connor Horn, second. Jared Darling, Kyle Menger, Lucas Cram, Brett Murphy, Lucas Strayer, Alex Bell, Derek Stanley, and then Mitchell Muma gonna be getting your top 10. Wild for these drivers, and there were some drivers that looked like they were gonna get good finishes. They got caught up in those late wrecks, and it really pushed them back 11th through 20th. Gavin Jones, Christopher Tate, Kyle Dagger, Robbie Lyons, Ben McDonald, Brandon Hoff, and then you've got Quinn Gingrich, as well as Brady Floyd and Blake Treywick was looking for a better day. And then Sean Howell going to be back in 20th place. And then here is 21st through 30th, where some drivers just were looking for better days. We saw Clint Spillman going and flipping. Stephen Gall going to be having really probably the most frustrating day for that 52 machine, that it was just getting shoved out of line so many times, was just struggling. And then all the drivers that were 1 lap down due to just instances and wrecks that came up during this race. And some of the other drivers that just were not able to finish out at the back half of the field. But Tyler, I mean, this was a wild one for sure.
I expected nothing less, Sam. I think I knew they were going to bring it for the first round here at the NS Services playoffs, and sure enough, they did. And I tell you what, the big loser, unfortunately, today, you mentioned some of those guys that, finished, maybe got wrecked at the end there. It's going to be that 9 of Brandon Hoff right there. I mean, finishing 16th when the Horn right there is going to finish up front, and Cram as well finish in the top 5. So that's going to hurt him big. And, we talked about with some of these guys, how you just do not want to dig yourself that hole. Obviously, for Hoff, the hole's not going to be that big, but still, knowing how strong Cram and Horn are, and, everybody else in this field, nothing's easy. So you cannot lose ground, really at any point.
Yeah, and I think also Colby Wells also is kind of praying for a miracle, finishing back in 27th position. And it wasn't the day that this 45 machine was looking for. It was already coming into this race being so far back, 21 points back from the leader of Hoff. And then with this running here, just was not the way that he wanted it to go. As drivers are slowly coming into the interview slot for us here today. Tyler, things just get wilder from here. I mean, it's the Superspeedway series, and now we're going to be going to Daytona next week. There is going to be just less room to work with. Still a possibility of 3-wide action, but a lot more of 2-wide to sometimes 3-wide of action.
And officially, folks, this is, well, I say officially, unofficially, according to the Dan Lisa, your new standings, at least for that top 5, to highlight what's going to be on the line here next week for Daytona. Connor Horn steps into the points lead by 1 point over Lucas Cram. Nick Olson now with the win moves up to where he's only 3 points back of the points lead of Connor Horn. Hoff drops all the way to 4th and is 12 points out of the points lead, with Alex Bell about 16 points out now. So, I mean, it is tight, Sam, and you mentioned Daytona. Not a lot of space compared to Talladega for a lot of people, as they feel that's going to be just, man, it's going to be wild.
It certainly is. We're going to be slowly pulling in some drivers. We're going to pull in 3rd place finisher Jared Darling to get his point of view on how he just almost had the win there, and it went through his grasp. Jared, did Sam and Tyler up in the booth? You got us?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, coming into turn number 3, you almost had a chance there, and then you saw Nick Olson pull the move that he did on you. Was there possibly anything else you could have done in that situation?
Yeah, man, I'm lost. Like those last 5 laps, so much happened. Like I don't even know where to begin. But yeah, that last lap got wild there for sure. With the last 2, because I think it was the 11 kind of lagged and jumbled up everybody, and we just all scattered trying to get around him. And then yeah, Nick was giving me a great push there those last couple laps, and he's got to make his move. And I mean, he made it pretty quick, really good move, obviously, and I just couldn't really block it. And I just was hoping. I think Lucas is one that got back to me. They're coming off 4, hoping he'd give me a good push, but it just wasn't quite enough. And it was a free for all, and we all made it. It was insane racing out there. I mean, it had to have been crazy for y'all to watch. I mean, that was. I tell you, like I said, so much happened those last 5 laps. I don't even know right now, but I'm happy to get out of here with a good finish, got some stage points, and a good way to start the playoff run. So definitely happy and excited. I mean, that was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, you got the stage points, also finishing well here today in the top 3, but you started the race off kind of in a precarious spot of being involved in that incident, then just lingering in the back. How was it throughout the day, just trying to survive?
Sure. I mean, it was a fairly, clean race. That first big one earlier in the race, I didn't get involved in it, but I was I was right in the middle of it, though, that's for sure, and I just had to avoid all the carnage, and then kind of just took it easy. I knew the stage, I was going to go for it, and got some decent points there. And then the rest of the race, just making sure I stay with that lead pack through green flag pit stops to have a chance at the end. And then, that caution came out 10 to go, and I knew, man, it's going to be wild now. And I kind of got back a little bit. I was about 10th, 12th, and then I pushed Connor up on that 3rd lane, and man, we had a heck of a run and cleared the whole pack from the 3rd lane all the way to the bottom. So that got me up front to be able to have a chance. So, I appreciate everybody, all the people that pushed me tonight and all the racing. I mean, that was definitely a lot of fun, like I've said.
Jared, I want to ask too, you mentioned that 3rd line there, and we know we've talked about all season how there's going to be some guys, the Horns, the Bells of the world, yourself, that really, feel like they could take advantage of that 3rd line. Was that kind of, maybe you felt like maybe a secret weapon for you tonight to be able to say, hey, when in doubt, if I'm there at the end, I know I could jump up there and try to make some moves?
Yeah, my position, because I was like 10th, I was like, I have to, because when you run, when you're just running that 2nd or 1st lane, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to basically be stuck. You got to go to that 3rd lane, and you just got to have people that are willing and committed to doing it. And luckily, those couple laps we had, a couple guys did it, and obviously it works. I mean, if you get people up there and do it, that 3rd lane will go, man. So you just got to be committed for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jared, this is going to help you a ton, especially with starting so far back. You were in points, just trying to chip away a little bit more at that gap. Before we let you go, though, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, you guys for broadcasting for sure. Cannot wait to go back and watch this. I'm not joking. Those last 5 laps are the craziest racing I've been in a while. And then, just shout out to Nick for the win. Good job to him, and Lucas and Robbie for this awesome league. It's my first year over here with these guys, and it's been a lot of fun this year, and can't wait to come back next Wednesday and try again.
That's going to be Jared Darling in the one machine, getting a 3rd place finish here today in the first race of the NS Service Playoffs. We'll be seeing you next week there, Jared.
Quick note, might be Thanksgiving off next week.
It's just that's true. Thanksgiving is next week. Oh my goodness, we've been just cruising away. That would put us with an off week, possibly next week for these drivers. And it is actually next week is off for these drivers, as we're going to be searching for Connor Horn to be bringing him into the booth. I mean, Tyler, it's been a wild race for sure for these drivers, and it was wild for Connor Horn as well. One of those drivers that got involved and had to come back late in this race.
Oh, yeah, always a wild child.
As we've got Connor here. Connor, it's Sam and Tyler. You got us?
Yeah, 10-4.
I mean, this race didn't start off the way that you wanted it to, but you were still there at the very end. Was there anything else that you possibly could have done there?
Yeah, I went with Bell instead of whoever it was in the middle. I don't even remember. I think it was Jared. I think it was Jared who I went with in the middle. Whoever got stuck in the middle there in the 3. I think it was Nick who went to the middle, and he had no help. but I decided to go with him instead of Bell, which was wrong. I had help from the 9 of Half. We had 3 trucks up there, and Nick would have been host, and me and Bell probably would have had a really good run for the win, probably. I don't know if he would have beaten Jared or Lucas down there. They were strong on the bottom. So I don't know. It's hard to tell because I might have gotten a worse finish if I didn't do what I did because I still got second. But I don't know. Maybe I would have had a chance at win if I went with Bell, but I can't do much about it now.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, we saw the fact that you had to use your fast repair early on in this race. And then coming to those final 10 laps, the racing just got so ramped up. Everyone was close to just making a wreck at any moment. Were you nervous at all that you were going to be caught up in something during those 10 laps?
Yeah, I was nervous, but pretty much every other playoff driver in the field was. I mean, we were all up there. You can see all the blue spoilers up at the front at the very end, except for just the 11 and the 5 as well. I don't know what's going on. That outside lane, it seemed way slower than it should have been. I don't know what was going on up there, but it was frustrating being in that middle line. It just seemed like it was going nowhere when it really should have been going somewhere. I think it had something to do with the 11 having internet issues because when he got the lead, he started blinking. My truck started going to inside of his truck, and it just really started creating sort of mini wrecks. We had a lot of mini wrecks on the final run there, but we just didn't wreck. You know, if there's a wreck, you're in a wreck, especially without a fast repair. That's pretty much your playoffs done. Really surprised the majority of us were able to keep it straight, keep it clean to the very end there, and it was definitely a thrilling finish. But and I think I gained like the second most points behind Nick. I think he only gained 3 on me. Everyone else I outscored, especially Brandon and Lucas. That's pretty important to outscore them because of the lead they had coming into the playoffs. So it was really vital to get those stage points and get a second place finish. I feel like I pretty much maximized my points.
Well, and to that point, Connor, just to highlight that as you're talking about, you have unofficially jumped into the points lead now with a point over. Excuse me. Yeah, have jumped into the lead with a few points over Lucas Cram. So, you've as you mentioned, really maximized everything right there. Does that, make you kind of more anxious about next week, or are you just going to keep on trucking as you are and just hope that's enough?
No, there's really there's no anxiety. It's probably going to set in until the final week. I mean, anything could happen. Next week, I could just go and get wrecked, and then we're in a big hole. So you really don't know. It's super speedway racing. I mean, anything can happen, and anything will happen. We've seen it happen throughout the whole season. So I would be surprised to see a bunch of drivers get caught up. I wouldn't be surprised to see all 12 playoff drivers get caught up in one wreck. So it's really just a wild card every single week. I personally treat it like 2 races. The first race is the race of a stage, and the second race is from that green flag to the very end of the actual race. So you just kind of got to bide your time for a little bit, try to get that lap led early, which I did, and then try to survive long enough to, race for the stage win, which I was able to get, and then kind of just ride after that stage because obviously you don't got to race until the final lap, really, especially in these super speedway races. And then you got to pounce at the right time. I think I was lucky enough to be able to get in the right place at the right time to be able to pounce and almost get a win.
Yeah, Connor, a solid day for yourself. Like you said, maximizing as much as you can. And after a great day like today, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Just really car racing design. Zachary Carr, Jeremy Miller usually spots me. Wasn't here today, but I appreciate him. We got a 6th place in that hard to drive 300 special event with him on the box, so that was really special. And we have a lot of momentum, and I'm trying to carry it to the end of this season and for bigger things to come.
That's Connor Horn in the 67 machine getting a 2nd place finish here, and hopefully we'll be talking to you in 2 weeks at Daytona.
All right, 10-4. Appreciate what y'all do.
As now we've got the winner that really wanted this, and probably is going to help a ton points-wise. You got Nick Olson. Nick, it's Sam and Tyler up in the booth. You got us?
Yes, sir. How we doing?
I mean, all the drivers have said it. The craziest final 5 laps in a while. How was it, though, for you trying to duck and weave through all of that chaos?
Well, I mean, it went from calm and serene. I was out front, felt pretty in control with Brandon behind me, and it quickly changed into a 3rd lane, taking the lead, cutting in front. And we had to do what we had to do after that. I can't even tell you. I can't wait to watch it back because I couldn't tell you what I did really in that sense. But I could tell you one thing: I did not lift. So if somebody was in front of me and they were gonna get that push, and all it had with it. You guys know I haven't necessarily had the best luck this year, but we just wanted to make sure we stayed up front best we could. When that middle opened up on the white flag, I just knew that was my opportunity, whether somebody went with me or not, to at least say I tried. And Connor went down from the third lane, and we hooked up, and it worked out at the end. But man, I couldn't tell you anything about those last 10 laps other than that.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much all that we were seeing as well. I mean, it was crazy to see. There was so much action from top to bottom. But like you said, you saw an opening in the middle lane where we've been seeing cars that have been running second in line on the inside groove, making that pass. And you did it perfectly, trying to get yourself up front. How does this feel, though, trying to carry this momentum into the next couple of 3 races, trying to keep getting wins and just trying to maximize your points?
Yeah, I mean the points are important, obviously, with the 3 races to go. I was over here in the broadcast, and I guess I made up 10 points on the deficit I had. So that's a huge chunk to knock off. We just have to take that into the next 3 races, and I mean the last race is at Old Daytona, so anything can happen there. So there's never really a feeling of security in a spot like this. You just have to go out there and get as many points as you can.
Yeah, no doubt. And Nick, want to ask you a question here, not necessarily points wise, but we talked a lot about tonight. Guys like you, guys like Connor Horn, Cram, Bell, just about being aggressive, being up front all the time. We talked about some of those influences. Is there somebody, a driver, in your life or whatever that maybe you watch coming up that kind of influence the style of super speedway racing you do, or has it always just been the mindset of, hey, I'm going to be aggressive?
I mean, the cop out answer would be Dale Jr., so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to say, I mean, there's a reason I'm number 24.
Right.
My childhood hero was Jeff Gordon, and he was as good as Dale was. Jeff was just as good on tracks like this. I think about that move. He put on, oh gosh, I want to say Jimmy Johnson or Tony Stewart in 2007 to win that fall race. And when you think about it, it's almost the same move. You pop up from the second on the bottom lane and you get a push, and you end up winning the race. But it's so, plate racing is so, you could pick anybody. I mean, Jamie McMurray, David Reagan. I mean, there are guys who were just good at plate racing. Um, and a lot of those guys aren't racing anymore, unfortunately. But uh, definitely I got to grow up learning their craft, and I didn't think I'd get to use it in this format. But um, those things you pick up on as you watch races growing up as a child, and now I'm in my 20s and still learning. Brad Keselowski, as much as I hate saying it sometimes, Joey Logano.
Oh, I agree
You
with
know,
you.
Logano is got to be one of the most aggressive plate racers on the planet. And as much crap as I might give a guy like him or Ross Chastain, I'm known to drive like one of them when it's all on the table, and just go for it for myself. And that's not necessarily good when you're trying to make friends, but um, at the end of the day, we got a trophy, and we're still in the championship. I want to thank 5 Kyle Manger, 97 Robbie Lyons, obviously Lucas, Stephen Gale, everybody in our group. We were working well together. Alex Bell, a lot of the playoff guys. So obviously at a certain point that cuts off, and you got to start racing for yourself. But we worked the pit strategy well all race, and got where we needed to go when it came down to crunch time. And those guys are great to work with, and I look forward to hopefully continuing to work with them.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, you kind of did all your shout outs, but if there's anyone else, the floor is still there for you.
Obviously, Kyle Dagger, Grit Motorsports, great team to be a part of. We got the Grid Ultimate Driver Challenge. We just had race 1 last Monday. It's pretty fun. Next Monday at 7:30 on other network. You guys do a good job, so I won't do that here. But it's such a great group to be a part of. I'm real lucky to race with such a great group, and I'm pretty sure we were on the portal tonight, which was pretty cool. And what a great race to be on there for the first time. this series. I mean, if you would have told me when we had that 15 to go restart that we would have gone to the checkers, the way these races have gone in prior weeks, I wouldn't have believed it. But I'm really excited to have narrowed that points gap. And I mean, next week it's just another week. You got to put this week behind, and it's a whole new race. So got to get stage points. Got to try and get the trophy again.
Yeah, it was certainly a shock to us that it went green to the end as well. Well, that's going to be Nick Olson in the 24 machine getting a win here in the SARG Superspeedway NS Service Playoffs. Race number 1 is now done. Congratulations, Nick. And we'll see if you can carry this momentum in 2 weeks.
Hey, we appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
And Tyler, as we're starting to wind down from this race, I mean, 2 weeks from now, kind of forgot it was Thanksgiving next week, but 2 weeks from now, that's when we're going to be seeing more racing action from these drivers. I mean, does 2 weeks give them enough time to cool off, or do you think that's just going to help them ramp up even more than where they're at now?
Hey, it's going to kill me. I mean, I'm ready for them to race next week and ready to go. Having to go 2 weeks off now, you sit there and you think about things, right? You analyze too much, you overthink, and I think it ought to build into what should be just another absolute brawl of a playoff race. Daytona, of course, should be fantastic. And just, man, I don't know if I can make it 2 weeks in without another race.
I think some of these drivers are going to be rewatching those final 5 laps and thinking, what could I have done better? Because for some of these drivers, they needed more points. For some, it just wasn't enough. I mean, Clint Spillman being caught up in that wreck, Blake Trawick as well being caught up in that late wreck. That is not helping either one of those drivers. And then Kobe Wells being a lap down. Those 3 drivers are really stuck in a hole, and it's going to be very tough for them as well as Robbie Lyons. If you weren't finishing in the top 10 and you didn't get stage points, it's almost looking impossible for you to even have a chance for the championship now.
Right. Well, it's pretty much from race 2 on of these playoffs, you have to be up front dominating, right? I mean, to highlight what you're talking about, Wells, Trawick, both of those guys that were about just over 20 points back coming in tonight, and didn't take advantage of the stages and then had the bad luck. And now they've pretty much doubled their deficit. So that is huge. I mean, that pretty much puts all the pressure on you to immediately have to do something and just hope you get a little bit of luck with somebody getting a bad day as well, right? So you're going to see that come out in a couple weeks. You're going to see that on the track even more so than we saw tonight.
Yeah, it is going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. In 2 weeks, we're going to Daytona to try to figure out who's going to be getting a win there. Will we have another repeater? As tonight, Nick Olson, 2-time winner this season, now going to be up there with Connor Horn, Lucas Cram. Both of them have 2 wins this season. Will we see a 3-time winner in 3 weeks? Only time will tell. Well, Tyler, for tonight, thank you once again and always for being up in the booth. As I believe we're trying to get Tyler back. Tyler,
yep, sorry. Sorry, I've had some cutouts there at the end, but yeah, no, fantastic stuff. And as always, Sam, you make it easy on me. You make me look better than I am, so I appreciate it.
It's always a blast to be up in the booth on Wednesday night with you, Tyler, as tonight is over here for the SARG Superspeedway Series. The NS Service playoffs have started. We know Nick Olson got the win here tonight. In 2 weeks, like we said, it's going to Daytona, and then it's going to go to Talladega, finishing it all off with the 2008 configuration of Daytona, where it's going to be bouncy, it's going to be crazy, and wild to see. For us on the Flatout Racing Network, it's only going to get more chaotic racing-wise, as we're going to be having ourselves the RTG Talladega Challenge tomorrow night, as well as the RTG iRacing Dirt Series is going to be on Friday night. So more racing action here on the Flatout Racing Network. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow on our Facebook page, and more racing action to be seen. The SARG Superspeedway Series is done here at Talladega. Nick Olson becomes a 2-time winner this season, and we'll see who is going to be getting the win in 2 weeks at Talladega. Playoffs are here. The NF Service playoffs are going to continue on, and we'll be seeing you guys in 2 weeks. Have a great rest of your night.